that amazing or what? Pretty good? Please welcome back to the stage, writer director Matt Ross and star Viggo Mortensen. Okay. Put it there. You should all say fantastic in French. Fantastique. Fantastique. Okay, we're sitting. We might get too comfortable. So,
before we start,
before we start, you can talk.
Can I just say one thing?
You're the director.
One, I want to thank Dave Carter for coming and interviewing Viggo. I know.
Do you want him to come back? Should I get off the stage?
Yeah, actually, can we have someone better than you, please?
Hey.
Stop.
They're my friends, so watch they will beat you.
I'm your friend too. It has nothing to do with you. It's nothing to do with you.
It's your moment, sorry.
No, I know a lot about Viggo, and I learned a lot, and I wish their interview had gone on for 2 more hours. But anyway, I wanted to thank him for doing that because that was great. We happen to have some cast and crew here, locals. That if you're here and you're involved with the movie, would you stand up? So people can appreciate your work? They all made this possible, so thank you guys. I don't remember any of you or what your names are, but good job.
So,
Okay, it's Joe.
can I ask you a question now?
Please.
All right. It's your show, though. Let's start at the beginning. A little bit about the story. Can you talk about where the story came from and how you sort of got to making this film, as far as the genesis of it?
Sure. That's my favorite word too. The genesis was being a parent. I have 2 kids, and I was really thinking a lot about what kind of father I wanted to be, and parenting was a conversation that was happening in my house a lot. I was seeing my friends have kids, begin to have children, and seeing how they were parenting. And I think when you have kids, you begin to curate someone else's life. Which you don't do so much. You obviously curate your own life, but deciding, what are we feeding them? Why? What are they watching? Why? What books are they reading? You start to really you're a caregiver for another soul, and I was thinking about my values and what I wanted to pass on to my children, and the things that were important to me. And on a fundamental level, we all want to protect our children. We want to help them navigate the world. We want to make it possible so that they don't make the same mistakes we do or did. And so I really had a lot of questions about that, and the beginning of it was just taking those questions and then putting them in a narrative form. So that was
Well, you did a remarkable job. It's a very moving story, and it really resonates. It resonated with me. I think it resonated with the audience, and so you must be. I think you're a good parent.
Thank you. Well, the great irony of all this is that while I was making this movie, my wife was raising our children for a long time. So that's something that's not really said in the movie, but
So without a guilt.
Yeah, that's it. No, but no.
And I heard, a rumor or read it somewhere on the internet, so you never know if it's true, but that you waited 2 years or maybe just told Viggo this, but you waited 2 years for Viggo to be available?
No, that's true. What happened was, when I was writing it, I didn't really have any specific actor in mind, because I always think that's a dangerous thing to do, because who knows what people are going to be available for, or you have access to them. And I think I had, as I said to Viggo, sort of a vague idea, of Harrison Ford when he was about, 40 or something, around the time of Witness, really. And I've told that to you. When it came time, I gave the script to the producer I work with, Lynette Howell-Taylor. We came back from Sundance in 2012. I had another movie there, and she's here. Lynette is here. Burnett said, well, okay, who do you want to, who's Ben? And I said, Viggo, absolutely. And so Viggo cares very much about helping the films after you make them, and as far as promoting them and talking about them and bringing them out in the world. And he was committed to 2 other films, and so it became, we had to wait for him. So yeah,
It's a little more complex than just that, but yeah.
But I mean, I love the script. When I read it, it's one of the best scripts I've read in a long time. It's on some level you read it and it just flows. You're moved. You're laughing. A lot of the things that you feel watching the movie it was all there, and not easy to do. You know, all these characters. They're all individuals. I believed what I was reading. I was engaged. And this is really, really a fine script. And we met and ostensibly to have a cup of coffee in a diner in Los Angeles, and we sat and talked for about a good 4 hours about everything from being dads, from being sons, to the movie itself, and just on and on and on. And it did turn out I couldn't do it at that time, when he wanted to do it. And he said, well, I'm going to try to get it made. I said, you should, absolutely. It's a great, great thing. And he tried, and it didn't work out. And in the end, he decided he wanted to wait, which I was very flattered by. And obviously, I'm very happy I did the movie. It's a great part. It's a great story. And we had a wonderful team. And I have to say, my representatives were also, so this is one of the best things we've read also in a long time. And really should do this, and one of them is here tonight, I think Lynn Rollins, and she was very strong advocate for this movie always. Thank you. And anyway, yeah, it worked out, and I'm glad.
So, and I think it worked out. For Viggo, I'm just wondering, was there anything different about working with a director that has sort of cut his chops in the sort of the acting side as well? Were the nuances different in how he directed, or was it, what was special about Matt?
Being directed by an actor, which wasn't the first time I've been directed by an actor, can be very helpful to actors, but only if that actor is a certain kind of actor, the kind of actor who respects, likes other actors. If he was the kind of actor that Matt obviously is, that engages with his colleagues, that loves teamwork, likes actors, is interested in their process, does his utmost to help other actors that he's working with as an actor, then yeah, that's going to be someone who can help you as an actor. If you're the kind of actor who is more self-involved and maybe a fine actor, there are a lot of those around, award-winning actors who are very technical and often and prepare their roles kind of in isolation and work in a certain way that doesn't matter that much what you're doing, they're going to do their thing, and you're sort of finding yourself having to adapt to them. It's kind of a one-way street a lot of times with those kinds of actors. And those don't tend to be great directors of actors because I don't think they really like actors very much. When it comes right down to it. So, but with Matt, it was great. He was, I mean, I've never seen a director work harder to help all of us actors get the most out of our characters individually and find a way to work together, not just during the shoot, but in preparation, in the way he cast the movie, the fact that when it came down to the end, when it was down to 1 or 2, maybe 3 candidates for each role, he took the trouble to work really hard and be encouraging to all of them. And the ones that didn't get the role, he talked to them afterwards and explained why and thanked them very much, which is ought to be commonplace, but it's very unusual in our business that if you don't get the part, even if you're down to 2 people, which I've been many, many times, you just don't hear anything. The silence tells you, and then you read in the paper, so-and-so is doing that. Oh, okay. That's how it usually works, but Matt, in every way, was but he was like that with the crew, as those here who worked on the movie can attest. He created a very collaborative, friendly environment, and he made us all feel like we had all the time in the world. He's a very good actor. Inside, he was Mayday. Independent movie, limited budget, limited time, but we all felt like, yeah, we're playing, we have all the time in the world. Sure, Charlie, you can pick your nose and go for a walk, and you know, you guys can do whatever you want. But you know, no, but he never passed on any tension that you might have, you know, been feeling.
And then I have one more question. I'll open up the audience, but just the film was impeccably cast, of course, because Viggo Mortensen was in it. So thank you for that. But the kids, I mean, the younger actors. I mean, of course, there's Frank Langella and there's some great actors in it, but the kids, like, they're so pitch perfect and wonderfully. The performance was wonderful. So, what was your trick in terms of, you know, they always say kid actors and dealing with younger actors is a nightmare for directors, and they're always, you know, have problems or you're worried and it doesn't always work out. And those roles are so essential to this film working. I mean, that was a big risk. How did you manage that and find those people?
Well, I don't think there's any secret sauce. In the beginning, when Viggo and I talked, you know, and when I talked to everyone about the movie, they're all, if they liked the script, the first question was always, this is a difficult proposition that you have here with all these children. And frankly, I just thought we'd find them. I don't know why. Maybe it should have scared me, but it didn't. I just thought we'd find them. And then the casting process was a traditional one. Jeannie McCarthy is an amazing casting director, and a lot of it's just time. We saw kids from every English-speaking country in the world, I think. Australia, Great Britain, Canada, obviously the United States, New Zealand. That was a great kid from New Zealand. And we ended up casting George from England and Nick from Australia, and then kids, a lot of American kids. And you know, we had a pretty extensive callback process where the children were, they would sing songs and do a lot of improvisation with me and with each other, and Viggo was brought in at the very end to play with them. And, I think, you know, I've thought about it a lot, and there's two things. One, saying the lines, being able to objectively act well, because two people can see a performance and one person can like it, the other person can say, well, I think they cried too much. So it's subjective, right? It is subjective. But there are certain objective benchmarks for whether someone can act. And when it came down to it, all the kids we saw at the callback level were great. But then the other thing you're trying to do is you're trying to find a special kid. I could also say that they're all special kids, but you're trying to capture a spirit, something that's specific to the character. And so sometimes you make, you make choices based on, well, they may not be the best actor I saw, but there's something about them, their soul, that's really special. And then logistically, it's all time. You know, filmmaking is all time and money, and one determines the other. And most independent movies nowadays are made for 19 days or less, and it's an impossible equation. I think it was Dustin Hoffman. Someone asked him about, you know, some movie he did, whatever it was, in the 70s, and he said, well, yeah, we used to shoot movies for 80 days. You know, it's a long time. You can get some work done. And so for the kids, sometimes it's breaking down the traditional filmmaking logistics for the children. You know, accommodating what they need to do. And sometimes it might mean that, you know, a child is allowed to repeat their line a variety of ways and a variety of times, because in the context of the scene, it's not a play. You haven't rehearsed it 400 times, so you might not. By the time it's your line back to me, I may not be in the pocket, you know, and then I don't get another shot at it until the next take. And for kids, that's hard, especially some kids that have never acted before. And so sometimes you might allow them to say their lines over and over again, or you work with them outside. I don't know, I think it's really just time and patience. And making them feel like there's no right and wrong. I mean, Viggo said something about this the other day, and it's really true, that when you're a child, you play without judgment, you know, and acting is play. It's play and exploration. And only as adults do we put this, well, it has to be good, or it must be something, because there's also money tied to everything we do. We're selling this thing, and, you know. But children don't come with that feeling. It's, you know, I mean, frankly, sometimes the kids would forget they're in the scene, you know. And there's moments in the movie where Charlie's picking his nose at the campfire scene. That's because he forgot we were filming him. But it's true. It's true. He's just living the scene, and he doesn't think, maybe I shouldn't pick my nose. You know, he just has an itch, so he picks his nose, and you can extrapolate that concept for everything they do.
But you have to have a relaxed atmosphere, and that's your job, and that's what you did so well. You create an atmosphere where, you know, there was nothing that was really wrong. You couldn't, if you start out with the premise that this is your character, you're playing this character, you're playing this character. Whatever you do is going to be right. You're the character, nobody else is playing him. If you start with that premise and then make your adjustments, say, well, I'd like a little more of this or less of that, then you're in a comfortable situation, you know. But when you look at the movie and you believe that, you know, Tran Miller, who is here, who played the mom, you believe that these kids are our kids as far as physically they look like they're our kids, and oh, this one looks more like her, this one looks more like him, you know. The way they speak is very natural. It seems so, it looks, I mean, when it's done well, when someone writes a screenplay like this and directs it in this way and casts it in this way, it looks effortless. It looks like real people just doing things and feeling things, and that's the trick though, you know. You don't see a movie like this very often, for good reason. It takes a lot of work and some luck along the way with casting and so forth. But I don't know.
This is something about that kind of goes to your question about with the kids. Tran's role, as written, was a sequence in the movie where you weren't supposed to know is it a dream or not, but she had no lines, and in the script it says something like she's speaking but no words come out, and then he wakes up, and so it's an example of the way I like to work, and you first begin to cast the kids based on, we know what the father looks like, and then each kid needs to look like the other kid. I mean, you may have your own feelings about whether they look like the same film or not, but for me it was very important. What happens a lot of the time is that famous people are cast because of economic reasons, not because they look like each other to play brothers or sisters or whatever. And I wanted to look at the same gene pool, so we start with Viggo, and then we had two girls who had red hair, so I saw a bunch of people who had red hair. Tran has red hair. I didn't know her. She did a scene from the movie, which was great, but she had read the script, so she came in, and what I try and do, if I can, is prepare an environment or have an environment where the actors are not required, and I've said this before, to deliver a performance between action and cut, but instead we all come to play. And Tran had read the script, and so I said, you know, in the script it says you don't speak, well maybe you do, let's play around. And she was amazing. We had all this footage that she and Viggo did this improvisation at 3:45 in the morning. It was in the TP in the middle of the night. She'd been waiting all day, and they went back and forth. She made Viggo cry. I mean, they had this beautiful connection that's on film, and so she's in the movie for 2 scenes because of what she brought, and that's, you know, that's what you kind of do. You try and do with everyone. So
she was gonna say. Well, and it was so amazing what she did. We were like, well, we want to see her more. And that's where, and I said to Matt, well, you know, the thing where they take the casket on the bus, and then, you know, there's a line that actually now happens at the graveyard, but it was on the bus where
he touches the coffin and says, Mommy's
in here, which is it's perfect. I said, what if we see her, you know? And it's like, it would fit in with the family ethos anyway, you said, you know, and it's like, yeah, it's, I mean, that's how we are. It's like, they talk about everything, death, sex, everything, and it's like, and seeing her, I mean, that to me, in some ways, that's my favorite sequence. I love that on the bus. There's so, you have to have what comes before, obviously, to stand on its own, but that sequence when they're looking at her and saying their goodbyes is so beautiful. It's so beautifully shot, so beautifully acted, and seeing you again, Tran, there was like amazing. So it was, anyway, but that happens because you're also open to, well, let's see where this takes us.
Film is a collaborative medium, you know. I mean, we all agree to show up for the script that I wrote, but then we all, you bring in all these different craftspeople and artisans and actors and everyone, and they're all interpreting the movie through how you think, but it's both individual and collective, and, you know, and hopefully the whole is greater than the sum of the parts of the few of the little bits that make it great. That was well said.
So we have some time for questions from the audience, so we'll open it up. If they have any good questions,
No pressure, no pressure.
and otherwise we'll have to end right away. And so I'll start with the woman in the center. Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't know that it's actually a good question, so I just sort of...
Oh, you can try.
Come on, come on.
We won't embarrass you if you have questions.
I embarrass myself all the time. I wanted to say thank you because, I mean, intellectually there was a lot of stuff going on, but when I was 9, my father committed suicide, and it really captured the sort of emotional devastation of the family experiences and the blame and all of it really captured it very well. I'd like to watch it by myself, so I wanted to just say simply thank you. As a kid who went through some of that, obviously, it's meaningful to see that very sensitively in a way that really, especially from a kid's perspective, like it's almost been 4 years since it happened to me, but I really, I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
That was a really nice comment and, about how she really related to the film based on personal experience. And so thank you. That was a good comment. Thanks.
You're allowed to stay.
So I'm going to move. It's hard to see. Is there someone in the back in the middle? Yes. Yes. Wave your hand. Yes. You. Yes.
Okay, I have a question. So, you chose mental illness and suicide versus cancer. What played into that?
So a question about the storyline, choosing mental illness and suicide over cancer or any other ailment. What was there a reason why you chose that? Was there a personal reason, or was it?
I mean, I know people who are bipolar, and that's. But it's. Yeah. Well, I think what Viggo said is that it creates the tension within the family about the interpretation of her behavior, and certainly with the younger boy who kind of misreads and blames the father. It's hard to remember, honestly, the mechanics of the story when I always feel like when I'm writing something, when people ask how long did it take to write that, well, it's a tricky question because I can't speak for other people, outline for a long time and figure out a narrative that makes sense based on either a character or a question I have, and then it's like the boulder that's rolling down the hill and collecting grass. Certain things start collecting, and sometimes I don't even know why. So it's really hard. I never had any other idea other than she was someone. I think part of it, personally, my wife suffered from severe postpartum depression, where I'm a kind of half glass empty person, she's a half glass full person, and she had the first depression of her life after she had our kids, and it was profound, really profound, where she would have thoughts, and that's in the movie, of murdering our children, which is not that uncommon, actually, and while she was breastfeeding or after, like really profound, scary thoughts. And somehow that made its way into the movie. So.
Over here, yes, go ahead.
Are you familiar with the movie Running on Empty, the River Phoenix Jeffers, Christine Lottie movie? I was really taken by the young actor that he applies to college and gets to all the top colleges. My thought was an idea of casting a young Hollywood young actor in that role, so you could have like 2 roles to bring the movie up. Even though Viggo's a great actor. Did you ever think about that, or did you just?
Did everyone hear the question?
No, what I'm saying is that you want, especially want unknown young actors, because I know there's some really talented young actors that would be a good vehicle for them, for their role.
So the first part is about were you familiar with Running on Empty, and then?
Yeah, Running on Empty, the movie. I've seen that movie, and then the question was about.
Whether you can consider casting a young actor.
What do you think about? So what do you think about Bo being a known actor?
There's some financial pressure. In that age category, there's very few famous actors that are meaningful in terms of financing the movie, and I saw some of them, but I wasn't concerned with the person's fame or not. I mean, I wanted the best actor for that role.
George is awesome. I mean, can you guys imagine any other Bo? You're asking before the fact, when he was putting it together, of course.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that other than I thought George blew me away, and George did some of the scene that he does where he proposes. On paper, that's patently absurd. There's a boy whose idea of romantic love is based on 18th century, English novels or something. And he kissed her and he fell in love, and so he feels like he must propose. That's acting gymnastics, really, to pull off. And George, in one of his auditions, he did that, and then he knew the speech really well. I had all the kids for that part audition with that scene, and also the scene where he gives Viggo the letters at the RV park. And I said, you know it really well. Would you mind doing like an improvisation? And I just want to see what else we can explore. And he did this like 5-minute improvisation that was astonishing. And then I did that Cassavetes thing where I stole some of those lines that he improvised and asked him to do them because it was so amazing. And I think that performance, when he proposes, you can see hope and fear and terror and he's devastated and love and just all these things ripple across his face. He's an extraordinary actor.
So I have a crazy.
And he's the nicest guy in the world.
It just made me think of something in terms of this film has so many great characters in it, and would you ever consider like continuing a story with one of or many of these characters? Because you can make 5 different films based on each of their lives.
No, but since then I've had a lot of television places say, "Hey, what about Captain Fantastic, the TV show?" And no, let's just keep it a movie.
I thought it was a crazy question. Don't want to make a second one and not have it work, right? Just go. Gosh, I'm gonna be pulled off the stage right here.
So a lot of this reminded me of when I lived in Oregon, about hippies. You said you were from Oregon. How much of that experience living in Oregon really informed the film?
The question about living in Oregon, how much did living in Oregon affect the story, and did that influence it?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, my mother started a bunch of, or was part of a bunch of alternative living communities. They weren't really hippie communes because it was the 80s, not the 60s. But I lived on a bunch of them, and in Oregon, and I lived in England for a bit, and Northern California. At one point, we lived in a teepee. In the summertime, we'd live in a teepee, and we'd go. There's a pond outside in the summertime because it was warm. And I had lots of land, and I think my mom's seen the movie, and she's like, "See, it was a good idea." Yeah, it's true. I mean, it was that. I mean, I love that. Yeah, I couldn't. The truth is, I couldn't wait to get out. I loved it, but it was great. I mean, my memories are walking. Our land, the land that the commune owned, was adjacent to a bunch of BLM land that went on for hundreds of acres. So you could walk all day, and be in a forest. So my brother and I would take our bows and arrows and just walk forever. And I remember that. It's amazing we didn't kill each other with the things we did with those bows and arrows. It's truly amazing. We used to like shoot them up straight in the air, straight up in the air, and wait till they come down. Who was supervising that? This is astonishing. But my memory is more like the trajectory of the character of the George play, the bow. I remember really wanting to leave at one point and feeling like, at that time I'd been to Africa and I'd lived in England and Scotland and I'd been all over the world, and I remember feeling like it was such an isolated place. The kids I went to school with had only been to like small town, like a town of 60,000 people was a huge town for them, and it just culturally was really strange. And so I remember really wanting to leave, but a lot, it's not autobiographical in that sense. I mean, I always say that the only other things that are autobiographical were like that I wanted to leave, that I lived in a teepee, and that we celebrate Noam Chomsky Day. And I really encourage you all to do that. It's great. And if you have kids, they'll get to know who Noam Chomsky is, as my children do. And you can have cake, it's fine. And you blow out a candle for his birthday, and he's not going to be with us that much longer. And give them some Noam Chomsky. We always read, everyone has to read a piece from Chomsky. And it's good. It's good, they like it. Uncle Graham.
I'll in the back in the middle, yes. Go ahead.
More of a general question, but obviously you were working with a lot of young actors, and I was wondering if you could give any piece of advice to a young actor, what would it be? Sorry.
So if you give any piece of advice to a young actor, what would it be?
Well, I come from theater, so I actually really believe in theater, even though I don't write theater. And for me, in my life, the first experiences I had with acting were film moments. But I think that certainly if you live in a place like Seattle, where the film community might not offer you as much as New York or Los Angeles does, you try and do as much theater. I also think that actors it behooves them to be trained, and that doesn't mean that you have to go to a 4-year program, but I think it depends on, the honest answer is depends on how old you are, where you are in your career and life. And then I think if you want to get into the film industry, I always encourage young actors to seek out film programs, because those young filmmakers need good actors for their thesis films. And if you're thinking career-wise, those films frequently come to places like this and Sundance and other film festivals, and your work can be seen, and then you can maybe get an agent. And, but really, I mean, we live in this DIY culture now, which is true, and it's true for young filmmakers, that there used to be a real barrier to having the means of production in your hand, and now you could buy a 5D for $2,000 and make a movie. And that's the other thing I would encourage everyone, even as an actor, is to make your own things. Don't wait to be invited to any party. Make your own work. And you know, people now are making things, there's a lot of crap, but a lot of people are making things that are amazing, and that HBO is turning around and saying, we love your webisode and we want it to be a TV show here. That's happening. That is actually happening. So, you know, Christopher Nolan's first movie he made over the course of a year with his friends, following on film in black and white, over the course of a year on weekends, and he just did it. And I think just do it. And if it sucks, that's fine. It probably will suck the first thing you do. Just do it 40 times, and then eventually, you know, and you have some ownership of your career, especially as an actor. You know, a lot you're waiting for someone else to invite you to the party. As I say in the movie, the cavalry is not coming. Don't wait. You know what I mean? Do it now. It's hard, but yeah.
So over here.
I was just curious, on the editing room, what was the scene that was the hardest to put together?
So on the editing room, what was the scene hardest to put together?
The truth is, I smoked a lot of pot in 7th and 8th grade. I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, let alone. Okay. What was the hardest? You know, we had a lot of material. The first cut of the movie was 3.5 hours long, and there are a lot of scenes. People who worked on the movie, I'm sure their experience was like, oh, that scene's not in the movie. And there was a lot of scenes that are not in the movie because it's too long. You have to distill everything. I think the scenes that were difficult were sometimes the rock climbing scene was difficult because getting kids up on that wall, and a lot of the times the footage of them, they weren't climbing enough or they were uncomfortable and you could see it, and that was technically hard. I think narratively, one of the hardest things was the confrontation between Viggo and Frank Langella. That scene was really two people talking to each other, and they had done a lot of different things. They'd done the scene in many different ways, and finding the right tone for that was hard, I think. Yeah.
There was one other over here, yes, on the side.
This is kind of a question for both of you. Where do you see, like, in the future going next? Like, any elements from this film, or what you learned from this film, how do you see that applying to anything in the future?
So where do you see your future going as far as your careers in relation to this film, and did this sort of film change your trajectory?
He also smoked pot, so. He still is.
In case my parents are in here, I did not.
It's medicinal. I just want to get better at. I just want to get better as a writer and director. Really, I mean, I don't know where I'm going. Was the question about the film or about me? About a specific?
About both of you. After this movie, I had a bad translation, obviously, but where do you see you going after this? What's next?
I plan on writing and directing another movie. If you mean professionally. Personally, I don't know. I'd like to lose 5 pounds. And, I really want to learn to speak French better than I do. But no, I want to make another movie.
You did great. You can.
Thank you. Not as well as you did. You were very impressive.
Well, but more practice recently.
Yeah, for sure.
And I honestly, I would like to. I've written some things, and I would like to someday be able to direct a movie, hopefully half as well as Matt has directed this one. That's what I would like to do.
Well, congratulations are in order because you did win the director prize at the Cannes Film Festival for the Instant Regards section, and of course you're eligible for prizes here too. So not putting any. I'm not promising anything yet. You never know. I'm not trying to influence the audience. But it's a wonderful film. You really made the Pacific Northwest look amazing. And I think what really is a testament to this film and to your work and with the cast is that you've really shown for Washington Filmworks and the Film Center that actually these kind of films can be made here, and we want to make more of them.
I hope so.
So thank you so much for bringing it to the Seattle International Film Festival. Thank you, Viggo, for hanging out with us. I loved it. You've been a great audience. Thank you.
This is with the reaction that you guys have given the movie, the way you reacted to it, makes me really feel like this is not only a little movie that could be made, but this is a little movie that can be seen everywhere.
Tell people it does come out this summer in June. It comes out in July, so make sure to tell people about it. There's one more screening tomorrow at the festival, but really it's important for people to come see it in the theaters when it comes out theatrically. Thank you, man. Thank you, Viggo. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.